And if everybody's ready, I'm ready.
I know I'm ready.
All right. Ecclesiastes 5 and 5. Better not to vow than to vow and not pray. Should I go on?
Sure. Go ahead and do six.
Okay. 6. Do not let your mouth cause your flesh to
My
sin,
God.
nor say before the messenger of God that it was an error. Why should God be angry at your excuse and destroy the work of your hands?
Ooh, that sounds like
For
the
in the
NIV.
multitude of dreams and many words, there is also vanity, but fear God.
All right. Now, I want to cover this really quick. Where it says better, I read the King James Version, so I apologize. But my 5 and 5 say better is that thou shouldest not vow, which is basically it's better that you don't make a promise than thou shouldest vow and not pay. Okay, then you should. So it's better that you don't make a promise at all than for you to make a promise and not fulfill it. Basically, even when it comes to what you say you will pay. You ever had somebody or anybody you could respond in a live or come in and invite and tell me your story where people said, hey, I need about $50 until Friday. I get my paycheck, I'll pay you, I'll pay you, I'll pay you. But before you know it, Friday don't went by, you gave them a whole nother week's grace, and you find yourself having to track them down because now you need your $50 back, and they didn't fulfill that vow by paying what they vowed to pay. You see what I'm saying? And so it's simply mentioning that's a part of false promises. Now the next scripture, I'm glad you went into it too. Suffer not thy mouth to cause thy flesh to sin. That means don't allow because not keeping your promise is sinful. It's anything that's short of God's glory, okay, is considered a sin. Anything that makes you feel any level of conviction in your heart that, man, I know I shouldn't have done that. I know it's not right to do that. I know I don't want nobody doing that to me. If you don't find yourself being okay with being treated that way, and you find yourself treating someone else that way, that is you allowing your flesh to sin, no matter how it's being done. And it says, neither say thou before the angel. That means don't even pray about this and try to make it an excuse. Okay? That it was an error. You don't get to tell somebody, hey, you don't get to tell somebody, hey, I didn't mean to say that. No, you say what you mean. And we don't get to backtrack all because we have been put on the hook to fulfill something that nobody forced us to say but ourselves. But we gave these false promises sometimes because we just want what we want. And we don't think about the end result on how that sin is going to find us out. Is everybody understanding? I think somebody asked to join the invite, and I'm sorry if I was trying to bring you in. I think I was trying to bring you in. Whoever was trying to join the live, go ahead and try to invite again. I'm sorry, it's my first time doing that. I hope we're all caught up. So it's saying, suffer not thy mouth to cause thy flesh to sin, neither say thou before the angel. Because when you go to heaven, there's always going to be a responsibility that's going to be set upon you when that book of life is opened up in front of you to see whether or not you're even worthy to walk through the pearly gates of heaven. You understand? I just want to hear them say, well done, thy good and faithful servant. You see, I don't want nobody to say to me, I don't know about y'all, but I don't want nobody saying to me, why did you promise to do this and you didn't? Why did you make all these false promises? Why did you try to get out of so many issues in your life that it caused you to deceive people, not keeping your word? Why did you become a truce breaker? You see, why did you become a home meddler? Why did you become a home wrecker? I don't want nobody saying that to me. When the book of life is showing up, I just want to hear, well done, thy good and faithful servant. So it's saying, don't say to the angel, it was an error. When you get held accountable for that thing that you didn't fulfill, don't say to the angel it was an error because that's not going to check for them. You see, wherefore should God be angry at that voice and destroy the works of thy hands? What it's saying here is, why should God be angry at your voice? You see, the only way what you say will be an error is if God does not receive what you say, especially when you're making a promise for the sake of forward motion in our lives in any way. God is not going to be so angry at our voices to where we won't be able to get into a position to fulfill that. Even if we can't actually pay that person back, $50 that day we said. That doesn't stop us from calling them and saying, hey, you know what? I'm sorry. I know I said I was going to give you the 50 today, but I just realized this, that, and that, and that, and that happened. And let it be the truth, of course. Because God is not going to honor that either if it's a lie. We're just the lady that ate the horse, And so we have to take responsibility. If we really just falling on hard times and stuff like that, which would be understandable. That's why we're asking for money in the first place. But God is not going to be so angry at your voice to destroy the work of your hands to where you can't fulfill your promise, you see? So God is never going to get in the way of promises that you made to somebody. It's us that create our own stumbling blocks so we don't have to pay back what we say we will. Does that make sense to y'all? The hurt and pain I've been having to heal from past trauma and this continuous fresh trauma has been so hard, but God had a plan behind it all. Yes, ma'am. He definitely does have a plan for all of it. My hurt and pain deals with, once again, I'm sure you might be talking about this very subject about surviving false promises. If I'm assuming this might have something to do with betrayals from family members and lovers. You can respond whenever you're ready to. But I got a feeling, my heart is telling me that you may be hurt in pain because of false promises from people that you truly gave your heart to. Now, I want to be able to share this with you. I'm going to go off subject for a moment, Ms. Dominique Andrews, because I want to show you my ability to leave the 99 for the one, as I also have promised I would. But this really brought my heart into direct portal of what you're talking about. Sometimes when we're dealing with a particular pain, trauma, or hurt that someone else have inflicted onto us, unfortunately, and I even have a video in my page about whose fault is it really. You'll see my head tied up and I wear my little gray robe, and I talked about it for about, 6-7 minutes. But sometimes when we're hurting, it's not really us being heartbroken. You see what I'm saying? The reason why is because even though we can say that we're heartbroken, right? Nobody can steal our reality from us. I'm not here to cut you. I'm here to love on you. But sometimes we mistake a heartbreak from a soul break. We mistake a heartbreak from a mind break or a body break. What I mean by that is somebody broke a part of us that we chose to give them because that was our way of showing them our love. When really all they wanted was that part of us that we gave. You see what I'm saying? So if somebody wants to control us and mingle our minds and placate our hearts by controlling our minds and making us rethink our reality, they have a part of our minds and we give them our minds because we're thinking, oh, I can trust them because I love them, right? But the heart was never a part of the equation. So now you've given too much of sometimes we give too much of ourselves to people that really doesn't want all of us. They just want one part of us because that's how they define love, you see? And then when we don't get what we want to get out of it, then we walk away saying, I'm hurt, I'm traumatized, when really it was never a you problem. It was always a them problem. We just didn't have that spiritual discernment enough to know what to keep for ourselves until they've proven that they deserve it. Does that make sense? And pass from a family member, yes, ma'am. And those worship members, and that's another thing about pain and hurt and trauma when it comes to church. And if you ever want to talk, Alicia, just cut me off. I'll shut up, no problem. But when it comes to people that hurt you in church, let me tell you something. There's a lot of people that tells you not to be church hurt. I am never going to tell you that. There is a particular way that we like to categorize church hurt. But because sometimes we do go inside of these ministries looking for a level of deliverance that that the shepherd of that house is not even delivered from yet. You understand? And so with that being said, these people that go through all of these levels of hurt towards us, we come in this church already hurt. You see what I'm saying? And we're coming to this man or woman of God expecting to be healed in a way they haven't been delivered yet. And with their attempts, they end up doing more harm than helping. You see? And then we walk away. Oh, they just like everybody else. See, that's why I'm not going to church no more and things like that. When really, we didn't utilize the spiritual discernment. And sometimes we cancel out our own intuition, especially as women. We cancel out our own intuition for the sake of someone that has a good word salad and know how to give cute words, flattering words, you see, and we can't always be driven by that, because sometimes who they are behind closed doors does not reflect who they are on that pulpit. You see what I'm saying? And so when we come into church hurt, expecting to be healed, like I said, once again, in the way that our leaders are not delivering yet, we end up walking away more hurt. When really we gave them information, forgetting that even though they're ministered, they're held to confidentiality, they haven't been delivered from the spirit of gossip yet. So it's not so confidential, even though they're held to that. You see what I'm saying? Because we didn't get to understand, what is it called, that Bible verse, know those that labor among you. We have to understand who they are behind closed doors or off the pulpit, because anybody could put on a nice little churchy outfit, do a little this and that, and smell good while doing it, and still be able to give a good word. But it's nothing. It means absolutely nothing if what's said on the pulpit is not reflected in our lives. You see what I'm saying? And so, did you want to say something, Alicia?
No, I just wanted to chime in because that's something that a lot of people go through and everything, and that it builds fear. It builds fear in this day and age and everything. A lot of people just grew up in the tradition of church and things like that, and it wasn't never, you know, what we think happened was we're growing up in the discipleship, you know,
Yes.
and that being said, it was more of, okay, this is what my mama and daddy did and everything, and I'm going to church because I have to. Not because you want to, because we were kids and we had to. And even though we were brought into that, when you actually get to age and you actually see what goes on in the church and God reveals it to you as a young age.
Yes.
Not saying like you're grown, and then you see. But if you grew up in the church and then you get things revealed to you at a young age and everything, it makes you question, okay, it's church where I really want to be, So in this day and age and everything, it's like, okay, I don't trust church. You see these mega churches. When you go online and everything and you just look at a pastor and things, yeah, everything they say may sound good, but behind the scenes, you got this mega church here, this mega church there, this mega church here, this mega church there. Like, oh yeah, I go to this church or that church. I'm not gonna say no names, but I go to this church, that church, boom, 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 whatever. What
Yeah.
does that mean? Oh, well, I'm saved. That don't mean you saved, honey. That don't mean you saved.
You mean like just
Just
because
because
you're
you go
going from
to,
church to church?
but you have people in the church that's still corrupted. Everything is still corrupted. All of that is still corrupted. Everything is corrupted. I feel like us as individuals that's seeking God, that's spreading the word of Jesus out here, are the ones that are actually building the church. The church is not actually a building,
No, man.
you know.
You got
And
that.
us as spreading the word of Jesus, who don't matter who it comes from. You spreading the word of Jesus, we are the church. That's what God looks upon. He don't look upon mega churches and this, that, and the third. And most of the time, when you go to a building or a mega church, something is out of order. It's out of order.
Oh my God. Say that one more
It's
time for the
something that's
people in the
out of
back,
order.
ma'am. I'm sorry to cut you off. Say
It
it
is
again.
out of order. Every time that you go to a church that's a mega church or whatever church, even if it's a small church, it's always something that is out of order. And us as Christians that are real Christians, we can feel it in our spirit that it is something that's out of order.
Yes, ma'am.
Because we already know the word. You know the word. Even though you went to church, you could go to church all your life. But when it comes to that word, you know the word. You know
Yeah.
what it says. And what I feel personally